Hey guys, this is our Production Second and 4673, and welcome back to Queen at Arms. I should just rename this series Nana Can't Talk. Queen at Arms, and we're in this scene. Yeah. I have a strong love for the one who came up with the fact that all the men is wearing dresses. Like, somebody just praised that. I praised that. Right. He did seem to brighten just a little when he noticed me walking up. Perfect, less talkative company. The prelate looked at him curiously before setting his eyes upon me. I fear you must excuse us, ladies. If the commander's aide needs to speak with us, it must be due to urgent business. The collective awe from the women make the archmagus roll his eyes. With a gentle smile and a slight waving gesture from the prelate, the women dispersed. Your timing is impeccable. Those women were beginning to grate on me. They're sure flighty and uneducated beasts here. Most of the men are uneducated as well by your standards. My standards aren't obscene, Lucius. You don't need to make them sound so. I was beginning to wonder if this was the best decision I could have made tonight. A server passed us by, and the archmagus took a drink from the golden tray. The scent of it was fruity and strong, and it seemed that that was all the archmagus was willing to take in of the stuff before placing it on another passing tray. We're probably attacking Panzerroy, and we can't get the better swill from them for a simple ball. We're hardly challenging our Panzerroy to war, Rufus. Only Talmera. And you think that Ramay and Quince wouldn't defend their weak little brother? They haven't. I can't talk, I'm so sorry. They haven't been on the best of terms as of late. It's possible they would not. Also, I doubt the king would change Talmera if there was a chance they would be defended. I doubt the king has ever had any intention of attacking them at all. This whole situation breaks up the rules. You work closely with the king, yet you sound so uncertain. Would this be something you would know? If it was truly his plan, of course. I work for him, but I'm not his advisor. The only moments I am included in politics are the ones that need a magical edge. Well, I suppose you cannot blame the man for being guarded around you. Your predecessor was the one who held loyalty to him. The prelate didn't sound as though he meant that to be a stab in the back for the archmagus, but he reacted as though it was. If you're going to be that way all night, I believe I shall take my leave of you. With that he began to walk away. His words were biting and bitter, and I couldn't help but wonder why. I knew little about the situation with the archmagus that served him before, except they were both from Alabaster. But then again, all maguses came from Alabaster. As the archmagus walked away, I wondered if I should follow him. While the prelate would no doubt made such better company, the archmagus seemed very upset. Yeah, follow him. My steps lay in sync, but drastically behind the archmagus for some time. He obviously knew his way through the maze of holes, and he made sharp, deliberate turns, almost lost me a few times. I felt a bit awkward following him, as it was obvious he didn't know that I had, but after a certain point, I knew that I couldn't make my way back to the ball even if I wanted to. It wasn't long until I walked into an elaborate set of doors that looked familiar to the ones of the throne room. What I found behind them wasn't vague memories of the throne placement, however, an enormous collection of books. It was so overwhelming how many there were. They lined the walls, and they tightly packed shelves and rows between them. I'd seen book collections before, but not as scented with lifelike marble statues and illustrations painting framed in gold. I couldn't even spot the archmagus in this massive place, but that wasn't a surprise. I also didn't mind much for some reason. For some reason, this place filled me with a feeling of content warmth. I just wanted to roam the shelves and run my hands along the leather books, hear the spike crack when I opened them, and feel the crisp paper graze my fingertips. I'd always had the fondness of properly bound books, but I was never really one for reading them. There was always something pleasantly nostalgic about it, and I was beginning to finally understand why. I must have spent a lot of time in this place as a child. And why wouldn't I have? It was beautiful in here. It was very easy to lose myself in the scenery of this place. I could even vaguely recall the names of some of the statues I'd passed and the personalities I'd given them. One statue in particular had always struck me as a sad one. A lonely woman sat on her knees, her arms in the air and her face pointed at the sky. When I came across it again, I realized that this was not so. I'd always thought she was crying, but back then I was never big enough to see her face. There wasn't a hint of sadness in it, but instead a sort of warming calm. I looked up and noticed something else I never had before. Right above her was a painting of Althea, her arms also open wide. The ceiling was pretty high up, so it would be easy to miss its implications of the statue's placement, especially when none of the other statues in the place, as beautiful as they were, ever bothered to look up. None of them looked this serene either. I wondered why I'd thought of the woman was sad in the first place. There was nothing in her body language that made me think so. Even if I couldn't see her face before, this was the case. Had I been told a story about her, perhaps? Or had I just made one up for her, as I'd likely done for all the statues here? I wished I hadn't been so young then when I'd had to leave this place. I'd probably remember better if I had a few more years here. It wasn't likely I'd ever see this place again either. I felt like I might cry, but it was easier to keep to myself this time. The memories of this place must not have run as deep as those on the throne room, which was strange, seeing as I'd likely have spent more time here than there. I departed from the statue and hadn't been thinking much to where my feet was leading me. It was a familiar feeling path, however, and eventually I stopped in front of a pretty pink-bound book. None of the other books had much color to them outside of the ones leather naturally came in, but this one appeared to be covered in a cloth to give color. I pulled it from the shelf and opened it. I was surprised to see it filled with more pictures than words. Was this a children's book? As I flipped through, I noticed a pressed flower between, and the memories rushed over me. Come on. This had been my favorite book, and someone had put the cloth there so it would be easier for me to find it when I wanted to read it. I even remembered the story. It's about the vain prince who was turned into a crow by a wild magus. The only way to cure his affliction was if he ate the seeds of the golden strawberry, but the strawberry had to be plucked by a kind-hearted maiden. Whichever maiden cured him, he would also have to marry, so he spent most of the story tricking a rich and beautiful woman into picking the strawberries for him. But of course, the seeds never worked. One day he got hurt and was nursed back to health by a woodsman's daughter who used the berries in a poultice. It was then he learned the story's moral, and the two wept, and she made a very wise queen. There was also a name at the tip of my tongue, the person who found the book for me. Atropa. It was then that I finally noticed the presence behind me. I'm surprised you know that name. I looked at the book in my hand, and Archmagus snatched it from me. He looked at it, and then he looked at me, and there was a deep scrunchie etched into his face. Then he put the book back. How do you know it? Even though he asked me this, I got the feeling he already knew the answer. I shrugged at him. I have no patience for your silence game, boy. I swallowed and decided to muster what I could to answer him properly. I don't know. Though it wasn't much of an answer, he certainly wasn't pleased with it. You do. Should I tell him the truth? This may be a bad idea, but do it. I opened my mouth to speak, but all I could do was nod. The Archmagus stared down his nose at me and clicked his tongue against his teeth. His patience was wearing thin. I think that might be my book. Do you? I nodded again. Interesting. With that, the Archmagus simply left, and I was afraid to follow him in case he decided to ask me more questions. I decided not to try and follow him again, and once he was gone, I made my way out. It took me until morning to find the way to the palace entrance. Crap. That sucks, dude. I'd been summoned to the commander's tent, but all I could do was stand motionless in front of the closed entrance. I was still reading a bit from last night, but compared to the other soldiers, I was in the peak of health. They didn't stop moving because things didn't stop moving just because everyone was up all night. But then I'm not sure why anyone would have thought otherwise. We had to pack up. We had to move out. We had to go to war. I had to go to war. I shouldn't even be here. I curtail. I could hear a strong voice resonating inside the tent. Are you a plant? I shook my head, and even though the man probably couldn't see me. Then you don't require as much sun. Come inside. He laughed, and I entered slowly. Inside, I spotted my brother. He wouldn't look at me as I stepped towards them. I wasn't sure what that meant. It's only fair that, as an eye to the assistant commander, you be the first to learn who will be taking that position. The commander's grin was so wide, and I swear it was touching his ears. I looked at my brother, who still wouldn't meet my eyes. It's absolutely perfect, isn't it? Both of Nicola's sons under my flanks. I want both of you to be standing by me as I'll make the announcement. The commander wrapped an arm around each of us and led us out of the tent. We walked to the middle of the packing camp, and it was difficult for the commander to get everyone's attention. The men were probably looking for an excuse to take a rest. Men, we have lost a wonderful man who could not easily be replaced. However, I truly feel one person is up to that task. The commander took my brother's wrist and pulled his hand into the air. We all know the name Cordale. We know it's strong and honest and wise. He looked at my brother and smiled. But all Nick could do was stare at his own feet. It is an honor to be able to have one of the names of that name serve amongst us for so long. First as a soldier, then as a cleric, and now as a ranked man. The commander turned his dark, excited eyes to the crowd. However, Nick didn't share his passion. Assistant Commander Cordale will take this army to new heights, just as his father did before him. Thank you, Commander Bryce. He let go of my brother's arm, which dropped like a stone, and joyfully clapped his hands together. The applause from the crowd was slow and awkward, and showed no signs of picking up with the fever that the commander had hoped to set. Though from the delight on his face, you wouldn't know he hadn't succeeded. Say some words, Assistant Commander Cordale. My brother's head popped upright as he looked into the crowd. His desperate eye dances along their grumpy faces, but when he opened his mouth to speak, he got no chance to let out a sound. I won't serve under a Solgardian. The declaration started an uproar of cheers from a decent chunk of the men. All of them were of Rian in blood. The commander paid no notice to them, but my brother looked as though his fear had only been affirmed. I hadn't thought about it until this moment, but he must have had this in mind since he was told about his promotion. We all had to march onto Silgard. Of course they are free, and men wouldn't want one leading the blood-soaked charge. My brother clenched his jaw and stood a bit taller. He was going to try and address his concern, but he was interrupted again. This time by a man yelling with an exposed blade. For Afria! One of our own Afrian soldiers is attacking Nick! Oh my god, I'm not gonna do nothing! Get in between! I stepped in between the soldier and Nick. He didn't stop coming. Block with my sword. As I knocked the sword away with my own, the soldier, at first confused, but his blood was boiling too much to back down, just as he'd been briefly foiled. He struck again, and I repelled. It was fairly easy to see his blows coming before they fell. He was fighting with his rage and not his senses. The men simply watched as we traded swings. Neither of us were trying to truly harm one the other. I only wanted my brother, and I only wanted to protect him. I'd thought the man would lose steam eventually, but in the exact moment I saw his arm start to drop instead of thrust. A gasp escaped his throat. This was because another sword had been run through his chest. I hadn't even seen the commander step behind him, and I certainly hadn't expected the man to end one of his soldiers so easily. I have to end the episode. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Oh wow, never mind, I can't end the episode here. Never mind, I realized that it was early and not late. I have recorded for not too long. God, holy shit. I just want somebody to stab this guy, because this guy is kinda evil and cray-cray in the head. He still hadn't dropped his smile. He wiped the blood off his sword onto the soldier's paling face, and I cringed. That's quite enough of that, don't you all agree? He put his sword away and pushed the body with his foot, causing it to roll towards the surprised crowd. You know that I'm more than willing to listen to a dissenting opinion, but the enemy will always take advantage of shows of weakness. Fighting with ourselves is the biggest show of weakness I know. I swallowed down my shock. The commander killed a man to teach us a lesson. When I looked at my brother, but all he could do was stare at the body as the clerics arrived to take it away. God. Any future descent will meet this with the same reply. The commander's smile grew even bigger, if that was possible. If we cannot to be together, we may as well be dead, don't you think? He put an arm around my brother. We've wasted enough time, no chance for speeches now. He sounded almost ill, as if he was playfully teasing Nick. Then he walked my brother back to his tent. I just watched him go, listening as the soldiers buzzed behind me. We would have to get packing again very soon, move on as though this had never happened. I was starting to see why my brother had taken up drinking. Alex, wake up. I awoke to Nick gently shaking me and whispering urgently. Commander Bruce is holding a meeting. I need you to come with me. But why? I don't really want to do this alone. I could use your companionship right now. It was understandable. He had to be on edge after that incident. I shakily stood out of bed and quickly dressed as Nick averted his gaze. Nick paused. You know, I didn't get a chance to thank you. There was some pretty clever fighting. I think you saved my life. You put yourself in danger for me. You're all I have here, Nick. I did what I had to. Nick sighed. You know, as much as I worry about you here, I have to admit, I'm grateful to have you. Life without you has been hard. I'm here for you, Nick sighed. Well, I better get to that meeting. The sooner it's over with, the better. Jeez, why are people calling me? Excuse me, dinner was ready. I followed Nick as far as the flap to the command tent. Being that I only was an aide, I think it's an aide. Whatever. With some sort of person. I didn't think they would take well to me barging in when I hadn't been specifically invited. I hadn't been giving any orders for the day, so I wasn't sure if what I was supposed to be doing. Shut up, ice cream truck! If I listened carefully, I could make out some of the conversation inside, but only small bits like Silk Guard in advance. Hopefully they wouldn't be much longer. The other soldiers fortunately seemed to be as aimless as me. A few of them were doing useful things like packing up the camp or polishing their weapons, but most of them were only chatting or playing cards. If we were supposed to be marching out soon, shouldn't we be more ready? I wonder if there was anything I could do to help. I should be doing to help. Amongst the men who were milling about, I saw someone who was obviously not a soldier moving with purpose across the camp. Their appearance was unmistakable. It was Alastor. He was a rare sight around the camp. What was he up to? I watched him walk briskly towards the tent that for some reason had not yet been dismantled. I knew that it wasn't a supply tent, because part of my duties was to check on those for maintenance. He looked my way just briefly and my heart jumped. Did he know I was spying on him? But just as soon he looked away and disappeared into the tent. Not a minute later, two guards emerged from inside the tent, and wandered off into the heart of the camp. Guards! What were they guarding? The prisoners. It dawned on me with a sick feeling. The soldiers that had been captured during the battle. What had been done to them? What was Alistair planning to do with them? From every interaction I had with them, I knew there was no way the bad things people said about him could be true, but what if I had been mistaken? He may just have been good at masking his true nature around most people. If he was in there with the prisoners alone, he likely had a good reason, but could he really be trusted? Seriously, mind your own business, dude. Like, I'll do that when I'm on his road. What if the prince did what the prince did was none of my concern? Nick would be expecting me when he was done anyway. I waited attentively outside the commander's tent. My brother and the commander were having a chat that I first assumed to be about battle tactics. The longer I waited, however, the more I could make it out. They were talking about battle tactics. They seemed to involve copious amount of drinking, goats, and precarious women. Someone must have noticed my shadow on the tent door when the one-sided uproarious laughter erupted because my brother opened the tent flat. His expression was flat, but I could sense the pleading in his eyes. My brother needs to speak with me, sir. The laughing from the commander continued as he waved Nick away. Nick stepped out with me, and we moved slightly away from camp. Shut up, ice cream truck! Jesus Christ, are you gonna be so noisy? Oh my god. It just keeps going. It keeps going. Come on, let's step away from camp. I hadn't intended us going somewhere private, but it seemed that my brother did. He must have wanted to get away from the noise. I hated to ruin that with empty chatter, so I just quietly walked with him for a while. Eventually we stopped, and Nick leaned against a tree. I chose a rock to sit on, and he closed his eyes and took some uneven-sounding breaths. We stayed that way for a few moments, then his eyes opened again, and he looked at me. I thought perhaps he was about to cry, despite the sternness of the expression. Why are you here? I stared at him, in surprise. All this time, he was just now asking me that question? I opened my mouth, but I couldn't think of how to answer him. I wasn't even sure why I was here. When Father died, you could have gone anywhere. Why did you come here? Nick paused. And don't say it's because you were forced by Kendrick's men. We both know you could have escaped them whenever you wanted. I turned my gaze from Nick to my feet. It was because of me. Because that's a stupid reason to join a war. I could feel the heat of Nick's rise in anger on my neck, and it made me want to crawl onto the rock I was sitting on. Come on, Alex. I brought you out here so you could answer me. This wasn't the first time I'd heard my brother so angry, but it was the first time he'd been so angry at me. Getting angry people back wasn't probably the best response. Getting angry back. What do you want me to say, Nick? Yes, I could probably have gotten away when those men marched into our village to take us, but all I could think about that time was you. Our father died, and you were all the family I had left. I was desperate and lonely, and I needed to know you were okay. The hot tears were rolling down my cheeks when I could finally look at my brother. His anger had turned to surprise in the middle of my words, and then the surprise reddened into shame. He turned his head away from me and glared at the dirt. Thought about saying something else, but I just couldn't manage it. The tears were not in my throat, and I could already feel the snot threatening to slip from my nose. I needed to get a hold of myself. What if I hadn't been a cleric? What if someone figured out what you are? Women can join the army. Almost didn't manage to choke out my reply. You don't get it, do you? You can't be a woman. Alex, you risked everything to come here. Surprise made me look at my brother again. What did he know about me that I didn't? His father told him why I was supposed to hide? Why I had to pretend to be his son? What? We should get back to camp. Wait, what do you mean I risked everything? Why is it so important that I stay hidden? I shouldn't have said anything. If Father wanted you to know, he'd have told you. Father died, Nick. He didn't have a chance to tell me anything. I jumped to my feet and quickly closed the distance between me and my brother. Why do I have to be like this? Why can't I? I stopped, while anger and curiosity and the most fiercely boiling emotions in my chest. My instincts hadn't forgotten we were in the woods away from camp. There's something you're not telling me. I know it. Nick stepped back. Look, there's something more important at stake here. Alex, do you really want to be here? You came here to see me, to protect me, right? During the battle, I tried to convince you to escape, to run away from this war, with me. I'm not really sure why you insisted on fighting. What about it? Has anything changed? Why don't we just run away? Why fight for this army? I want to protect the men who fight alongside us. What? Our fellow soldiers, Nick. Prelate Lucius, James, Rufus, even Prince Alistair. Don't you care about them? Not as much as I care about you, but I take your point. Look, just stick by me, okay? Be careful. Hey, who saved whose butt like last time? Touché. Together. Wait! Excuse me, someone came to see me. Together we return to camp. Setting out wasn't a unique experience, but I was sure it would get old fairly soon. If the trip from home to Alfrea was any indication, we'd have to make a lot of stops for the night before we could even see the gates of Castle Cillian. I could barely remember when I'd been to Stilgar's capital last. I was pretty young, and the only recollection I had of the place was of Nick not wanting to go for some reason. I wished I was riding alongside him so I could ask him, but then I was lucky to be riding at all. Because I was an aide, I was allowed to have a reindeer for travel, and thanks to my father, I actually knew how to ride one. They were temperamental beasts at the best of times, so I wasn't surprised to find that most new recruits weren't allowed to top one. I was actually getting a little bored as I rode, and I considered riding up next to the commander or Nick, but I got the distinct expression that they expected me to doing something rather than just riding idly. Idly? I didn't know what that thing could be, but I also had no intention of finding out. Bored as I actually had some downtime, so long I stayed ignorant to my responsibilities, which was kind of an awful thing to be happy about, but I was exhausted on the edge of no longer caring. I sort of wanted to talk with the other soldiers, but the day's most impressive gossip, the fact that the Stilgardian prisoners had somehow escaped. Even if it had gone unnoticed initially, the way the commander was foaming at the mouth about that morning made it impossible for the news to get by anyone. It wasn't something that he would have been happy with his aide chatting about, so I just kept riding without talking to anyone. I didn't get to ride Italy long, however, as a couple of loud voices managed to break through the general hum of conversation as we rode. Amulette is a stupid word, that's why. It didn't take me long to find the source of the outburst. It looked like our lead mechanist was riding alongside their archmagus. It's hardly my issue if you're that ill-educated mechanic. I know what it means just fine, that's not the point. Do you know? Don't say it like you don't believe me, I do know what it means. Then enlighten me. No, because that's just what you want. You want to be smug and feel smart, so you use bigger words than you need to. But that's stupid, because people don't know what you're talking about when you do that. Expect a blowhead that likes feeling smart. It isn't to feel smart, it's to be precise. Ameliorate was a proper word to use in this context. Yeah, that helped my guys who don't even know. You could have just said improve and made the same point. Alright, I have to end the episode here. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.